Recording. Okay, we are live now. Hello, my name is Austin Salvi. I am entrepreneurship podcast, and me, I have.
Hi, I'm Kevin. I am the technical director for on ACM Entrepreneurship.
So today we are going to be talking a bit about ChatGPT, a bit about language, how to use ChatGPT. You should be worried about it. Yeah.
All right, so as we all know, ChatGPT is a large language model. So I think when it comes to utilizing ChatGPT, it's very important to understand the weaknesses, the limitations, and strengths of large language models. But before we can do that, we have to understand language and how it works and what our relationship with language is in the day-to-day lives. So if we take a very linguistic, a psychological linguistic approach to what language is, one of the more interesting phenomena is called the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. And it's the idea that language not only is an expression of our thoughts, not only is it a way of describing our inner world, but language itself has an influence on how we think. There has been a lot of very interesting studies on tribal cultures and by linguists. One of the tribes that was widely studied is in Australia, and their language is called Gugu Yamathir language. Oh no, low battery. We might have to do something about that. Anyways, yeah, it's my backpack. They have no concept of left and right. They only have cardinal directions. So if you ask them what is to your left and what is to your right, they will have no idea what that is. Yeah, what it means, even if you try to translate it to their language. But they have absolute cardinality, which means they have north, south, left, and north, south, east, and west. You can see how even in my English speaking world where we do have a concept of left and right. In my mind's eye, the idea of west being tied to the left or east being tied to the right is very strong, which is why I kind of messed up here: north, south, left, right.
Yeah.
But of course, for the tribe in Australia, they would have no such concept of left and right. Mm-hmm. They would say, "What is to the north?" They are very good at navigating because they don't have relative. They don't have relative positioning that's absolute.
Need it. Yep. They don't need left and right.
Yeah.
I think there's an overarching. We're going to get into that later, but there's an overarching theme with the languages and how the languages, we get the language from.
Kind of like how we have numbers. Numbers is so innate to how we talk about the world. You have 10 fingers. Some people have 12, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But not all cultures, not all languages have a concept in numbers. There's a tribe in Brazil, their language is called the Pirata language. They don't have words to express values greater than 3. They have relative ideas of numbers. Something is more or something is less. But if you perform experiments on them, like obviously humane experiments, where you put objects on a table in front of them and ask them, how many things do I have? Well, they can't identify more than 5 or 6, 7 objects. Mm-hmm. And that is something that we, most societies, most languages do have a concept of numbers. You can very easily pick out how many objects are on a table. And it's kind of wild because the language that you speak influences what you can see. Because counting things, it's a visual thing. Yeah. It's insane that because you don't have a word for 7, you can't see, you don't recognize 7 objects in front of you.
Yeah. it's really strange to me too. I mean, some people just use their hands for like our culture is very much 10, base 10, and then this culture 3, but don't go past 3. Wild. There's other, and then there's other counting systems like Roman numerals that goes, goes I, and then 2 is 2 I's, and goes get a new symbol once you get to 5, and then a new symbol once you get to 10, and then hundreds. It's very much like ours, but it's a little different.
It's also terribly inconvenient to do math in Roman numerals.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's not a surprise that the history of mathematics is really kind of governed by the big thing is Islam. Arabic numerals, they kind of made a really convenient number system. Islam, India, right? These were like the big mathematical giants. Yeah, they came up with the number system that we use today, and because it was convenient, it allowed them to develop complex mathematical ideas that we did not see the Romans develop, because their method of communication through language is just inconvenient.
You couldn't really do math. Have you done like I made a Roman numeral calculator one time for theory of computer science, and that was so annoying to do.
That seemed like a fun project.
Yeah, it's very fun, but it was annoying. But I mean, the nice thing about it is you could choose how you wanted to do it. It just had to be with no rules, so you couldn't convert it to a decimal.
Did you use JFlap?
We just used Python, basically.
Wait, but this was in theory comp sci?
Yeah.
Huh. I think I imagine
it was different. I think.
Yeah. Wow.
And then, but yeah, let's get back to the numbers. It's like, I mean, I watched a video about this, how for a while 0 wasn't really a number. It wasn't really a thing that people understood, because 0 had no practical use at the time. You don't need to know that. We just need to know the positive numbers. Later on, it proven you needed them. Basically, it was the language, the numbers, the language, it all developed based off of what was needed.
Yeah.
Really cool.
It is, because it also just shows how the progress of humanity is also inherently tied to the progress of our language system. I mean, if you think about pre-Descartes days, before we had the Cartesian plane, right? Our understanding of geometry was very, very limited. We had to just draw out our squares. We had to draw out our squares and circles. But we had no way of giving coordinates until Descartes came along. I mean, if you look at, say, so I had a copy of Principia, when I was a kid. I did not understand anything that was inside, because Newton wrote out all the mathematical calculus in words and shapes. But do we use that today? No, we use Leibniz's notation with calculus. And so these are just examples of how
we're expressing these ideas.
Yeah, the way that we express these ideas.
Abstract too.
Yeah,
it's an abstract concept.
Well, the symbols that we use shapes how we think about the ideas itself.
Yeah.
So what does this have to do with
let's get back to the ChatGPT.
What does it do with the ChatGPT stuff, right? So the idea with ChatGPT as a language model, it is going to excel naturally at information that is very well encoded in language. But there's also a lot of example of information that is poorly encoded in language. Data visualization is one example, right? You can't look the information that you get if you look at a CSV file with millions of data points is empirically the same as if you looked at a graph. But obviously our brain just cannot handle all those numbers, but visually it makes sense. And system art, and if you look at some of the discussions online about what ChatGPT is good at in terms of the software development world, one of the things that ChatGPT struggles with is system architecture, right? Because system architecture is not formally described within written language, like in English, but it's described in like diagrams, graphs, stuff with arrows, labels on it.
Visual.
And yes, it is very visual. So I think that if your problems involves stuff that's like spatial orientation, it's going to be kind of weak at it.
Yeah, makes sense. But it does really well at like human language, like emails, communicating with people, writing about like a book review. So I've heard stories of people using it to just write a book review, so they don't have to read the book, and it does really well at doing that. Even if it doesn't totally know everything about it, it still has a bit of confidence, like a human does.
It's also great at
to give an answer.
Right. It's also great at summarizing. So for one of my homework assignments, where we had to summarize an article in French, I just copied and pasted in a few paragraphs, asked it to summarize it, and then asked it to summarize again. So this was 2 layers of summarizing the summary, and it did very, very well. It gave like a coherent breakdown of what the article was about, and the article was long.
But you're like, this is just using ChatGPT as a tool. You're not. If the summary is not good, it's not going to be good. But you read it over, and this is the summary. Basically, you're giving it the final grade. Like this. Something. You have to give it your sample.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And then,
so one of the things that I thought it was really interesting that ChatGPT was able to pick out is finding logical errors in code. So one of the research projects that I did in the past was called mutation testing, where you injected small logical errors into code and see if your unit test can pick them up. The idea is if you inject faults in your code, your unit test must be able to pick it up. And if your unit tests can't pick it up, well, then that's your unit test is faulty. You can ask ChatGPT to try to find the logical bugs, and it will find it, which means that logical processes, control flow,
go through it,
is encoded within language. And that's why ChatGPT is so good at writing code. It is because fundamentally we are expressing our thoughts for how a program should work with a language. So we should not be surprised if ChatGPT is obscenely good at writing code.
Usually with language, it's there's not much like variability about like what you can. There's things you can't do. I don't know if that makes sense. Like it's a format. You have to write something. It has to compile. There's no like audible, like adding in a new. That makes sense.
Are you saying that this is not something that ChatGPT would be good at?
No, I'm saying that it would have the easiest time with a language, I think, than it would with other stuff where there's like context.
Right.
Yeah.
The context thing is difficult because that depends a lot on, like, say, experience.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to remember, ChatGPT is trained on essentially what is the collective human experience throughout history of English speakers.
As good as us.
Yes. I like to think ChatGPT is essentially, it's almost like a hive mind, because buried within its weights and its billions of parameters is the collective written output of Western society,
Mm-hmm.
which is insane. That's all, and that's why it's able to do like write poems in Shakespeare. It's a lot of training data for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think even in situations where there's not a lot of context, ChatGPT just has so much training data and so much experience that it can just materialize things out of nowhere.
Assume the context.
Mm-hmm.
If it assumed wrong, you can always re-specify it, and then it'll reprint it out with the new context.
Yeah.
Very cool.
One of the things that I was very surprised that ChatGPT, especially GPT-4, was able to do was summarize a project report. So I had to do a project transition to onboard a new student employee, and I gave ChatGPT the project abstract, what the project was supposed to do,
Mm-hmm.
and then I gave ChatGPT the technology stack. We were using React, we were using Django, we were using PostgreSQL, we were using the supercomputer here, and yada yada yada. The amazing part was when I asked it to describe how these components fit together, it was able to do so surprisingly well. So GPT-4, somewhere within its brain, contains knowledge of all these different frameworks just by training data on the documentation. Yeah.
It's just gonna get better too.
Yeah, it is. So I did recently read an article that LLMs are hitting a wall where more parameters don't necessarily make it better. But I think that's too early to say. I think what we had to talk about is the computational cost of running these language models.
Mm-hmm.
Also, data privacy, of course, because if as a company, if you want your employees to be able to take advantage of these language models, you have to be comfortable with your employees giving OpenAI all the feedback.
Yeah, it's like we all have this one person that we talk to, but we don't talk to the other people that this one person talks to. But the ChatGPT will also tell them what they found out from talking to you or whoever.
So would you like to elaborate on JB Hunt's policy on ChatGPT?
We do not give it code. Like we don't use it for like we don't use it to get code for ourselves, and we don't give it any of our code because it's a privacy issue, and it's currently a bit of an ethical issue. Use it whenever your job to use that. That's possible. It's potential. There's potential for that to change over time. There becomes more security with it. Or I could see a market for companies paying to have their own private, like their own copy of ChatGPT doesn't share with anyone else but that company. It only talks to people in that company. Really cool. I think once that becomes a thing, I think companies will be more interested in having AI assisting them. At the moment, no, Rehab doesn't use ChatGPT.
I think I think that's less of an economic thing, not whether or not it's economically viable, but more so just a policy.
Yeah, where you don't want to give it secrets. Like,
yes.
Give it. There's some company, some employee got in another company got in a lot of trouble for giving it like all their code. Article said source code. Every person that's not techie will just say source code. Oh, what's that? I just say it's the code. They gave them like their code. Now it's just living in ChatGPT somewhere.
So then, when it comes to in the industrial use of ChatGPT for software development, it would have to be on-premise servers, or at least say a cloud tenant where you have control of all the data.
Yeah, because data is very important for like the U.S. cares a lot about your citizen data, and all other countries care about their personal data, and then citizens care about keeping their data safe. And Europe, you can request, in some countries in Europe, you can request your digital footprint, as much of it as possibly wiped there.
Right. Yeah.
It's impossible to totally wipe it, but you can get quite a bit of it wiped. It's available data, not everything. Yeah, it's crazy. Data is very, very important.
So
nowadays too.
So how will we truly be? I think that's a really big question because for comp sci's, our day jobs depend on being in the right code and people paying for us.
Yeah.
How will we truly be is a real question. So my thought on this is
Scribes.
what do you mean?
We're the scribes in ChatGPT printing press.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people are saying.
Yeah.
That's true, but that's if you don't move over, if you don't learn about it, right? You don't learn the tools, software engineers, we have to learn all these new new frameworks, Over time we've moved to people are using React, they're using Angular, they're using Vue is another one. But they're moving to these tools. Well, 10, 20 years ago, those tools didn't really exist, but you learned about them, learn how to use them. It doesn't replace you necessarily. It only replaces you if you don't follow where the technology is going. But industry needs to. Yes. Gotta keep on going.
I think React has more or less replaced Angular. Angular was a thing before React. React came over.
All the college students now, I feel like, want to use React because it has advantages.
Yep. I think fundamentally, the limitation of ChatGPT is its energy requirements and its computational requirement. Running an LLM is very expensive. Humans, on the other hand, we're computationally and energetically very cheap. The problem is, we got to pay, for our food and living. We have to pay everything else. Yeah, and we get sick. We make mistakes. But the question of how generative AI will change society is going to be tied to how scalable they are when it comes to computation and energy requirements. Do we know how much energy, what the power bill is for OpenAI? Do we know how much it costs to run those servers?
Versus how much it costs having, human employees.
Exactly.
And also just have it creating the whole thing, and you still have to have currently you still even have to have a human to give it the final stamp of approval.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just whenever you're working in the industry, you still have to get a stamp of approval. Coworkers.
Yes.
You peer review, and in studies you have to get a peer review. So you still have to review it, but it does assist you. Tool.
Yes. But if you also think about the fact that factory workers who are doing the quality control, but because it's so automated now in car factories, only one person can give the stamp of approval for maybe 1,000 cars. Mm-hmm. Just because we know that the robots are very reproducible. So why is that not going to happen to us? My biggest guess to this is the fact that, when we use ChatGPT through an interface, through the online interface, we don't see the computational costs required. I am going to guess that even though ChatGPT Plus is $20 a month, it is way more expensive to run the servers than $20 a month. I'm guessing they're operating in a net loss. But Microsoft did give them a lot of money.
Yeah, and they're trading that cash flow, costs for data.
Yeah.
And people to use it, which is a really good idea.
Yes.
Information, human interaction with this is worth a lot more than keeping up the server for now.
For now. That's because it's a new technology. Mm-hmm. ChatGPT would want I would imagine, from ChatGPT's perspective, what they want to do is have as many third parties, like Expedia, integrate with ChatGPT services so that ChatGPT then becomes indispensable. Once it becomes indispensable, then they can start slowly raising the prices.
What they actually try to run it.
Yeah, to actually have it to
make a
run.
profit.
Yeah. But for most companies, I think replacing humans with ChatGPT, even if ChatGPT can't do, let's just assume that ChatGPT can do the job of a human. That is going to be a very expensive model to run because, well, you need to have people running the servers. You need to have people maintaining the servers. Either that, or you have to pay a cloud service provider. And if you want to do computation in the cloud, it is not cheap.
Mm-hmm. It's like kind of like a simple example would be like shipping. For those that aren't like very tech, like you get 1 day shipping, Amazon, but you could also just want to go cheaper, go for like a 5 day or 2 weeks or something. It's about like how quickly you get it, what type of service you actually need. Most companies, I feel like, don't ChatGPT yet. They will.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be use cases for it.
I think the biggest takeaway here is ChatGPT is a tool that, as developers, we all need to learn how to use, and we need to try to use it in as many situations as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I've used ChatGPT quite a bit, and I've also seen other people use ChatGPT. I think that the biggest thing to keep in mind, number one rule to follow is know when to stop using ChatGPT. Remember, ChatGPT is not Google. It should not be your source of information for objective truth.
More of a guide.
Yeah.
Really.
It's much more of a guide. It's
it's asking me like an above average person what they think about that,
mm-hmm.
and they can be wrong. ChatGPT can and is wrong in some cases. Can also be right. No, you can know more.
Every so often, it's amazing. You get stunned by how well ChatGPT works, and you also get stunned by how badly it works.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to do an experiment. One of my jobs at sponsored programs is we have to read through funding opportunities. Now, mind you, this is done with GPT 3.5. And I would give it a set of rules saying, okay, reject these funding opportunities from the federal government because our university is going to qualify. And every so often, it would pick out a opportunity that I will take a quick glance at it and be like, we're not eligible for this. And then it will read it, and I was like, no, we are eligible for this. Here's why. And I'm like, damn, that is amazing. Other times, it would be blatantly wrong. Be like, hey, reject all funding opportunities that reference foreign countries.
Mm-hmm. Which is a good idea.
Yeah, because we're not. And guess what? It was like, okay, here, funding opportunity for Yemen, accepted. And I'm like, wait, but I will also tell us stuff like, if it mentions the United States or anything military related, accepted. Next funding opportunity reports comes in. We have a military medical a funding opportunity for the United States, rejected. So it's interesting because it makes mistakes. That's very human. But because we have this tendency to treat ChatGPT like Google, we think this is like someone is out of, ChatGPT is terrible because it's not Google. One of the things that ChatGPT will do is create false sources. Like if you ask it to write a research article and to give sources, it will give you sources. It will give you well-formatted sources. At a glance, you would not be able to tell the difference between like an actual research article and something that ChatGPT wrote. But if you look up the sources, they don't exist.
Yeah, it's like a college student that wrote a paper but they don't have any sources. They were really good at faking it.
Yeah.
You know, they're really cool. And then, can we go into like what we asked it?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I think one of the things that ChatGPT is really good at, especially for software developers, is just learning new languages. So for me, learning a new language is always fun, but it's also really annoying because you know how to do certain things in a language, and you don't need to go through a course just to explain to you how to do comparison. I know how an equal sign works in programming, right? So then you can just say, go to new chat. There's the GPT-4. Okay. Read a CSV file in Go without using the crates. Crates is a Rust thing. And then we can use Replit.
Oh.
It's interesting because the last time I asked it, it didn't include this encoding in encoding/CSV, but it does mention defer again.
Also uses IO now.
Yeah.
IO. You don't use Go, right?
No.
Yeah.
This is the second time I've seen Go in my life. The first time was the previous ChatGPT prompt. So I think it was.
Yeah, data.
Yeah, data CSV. Let's run it. See if it works. And it works. It's kind of cool. So what do we want the CSV to do? I know. Oh, we can take our we can take our bioinformatics assignment, and we can pull the CSV file from that assignment.
Yeah.
And do all the data cleaning stuff. Let's nab the breast cancer. We open this up as text.
Yeah.
Like open it with Notepad or something. Open with. Here, open with. Notepad.
It's in the data.
Yep. That's gonna take a while. There's a lot of data in here. All right, so
Cancel.
oh, cancel. Let's open this up with Excel. Let's just do our bioinformatics assignment and go. So okay, so what this project is, okay? Where is okay? This is cancer data of microRNA levels. So for our assignment, what we had to do was in breast cancer detection, one of the most important things you had to do for early breast cancer detection is to make your tests very convenient. The standard procedure is a mammography, but a lot of women don't want to go through that. You want to have early detection. Early detection requires regular checkups, but very few people want to do a regular mammography. The solution here is to look for serum microRNA levels. There are certain strands of microRNA that are overexpressed, depending on whether or not you have breast cancer or not. There are also some that are underexpressed. but the idea is the same. You collect a whole bunch of you collect blood serum samples, measure it with a baseline, and you can detect whether or not they have cancer. So the way that this study did was they collected training data from I think almost 1,500 individuals. Here, this is their serum levels of microRNA, and at the very end here we have a column that indicates whether or not they have breast cancer. So if we want to say ChatGPT to parse this, what we want to do is to isolate our Y, which is our whether or not they have breast cancer. All this data that's prefaced with HSA-MIR is the X data. And so basically we're trying to correlate the serum levels of certain strands of microRNA to whether or not they have breast cancer. This is the geo-accession number, and the geo-accession number is really just like a primary key. This is what this is saying is that each row is an individual patient. So we want to create, say, we want to create two CSV objects, one for just the breast cancer one, and another one for just the microRNA levels. CSV file. First column. Right.
I have messages.
Yeah, it's very Pythonic.
I'm guessing it's going to do it.
That's true, yeah. Let's try to implement this while it's already waiting. So defer file.close reader, close new reader, or record error reader.read. Let's see if we can enable this. Or record. Okay, so
it's using .io instead of IO. Using .io instead of first one used IO.
Oh,
Wait. Okay, you're on this one.
I feel like didn't we have another one?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so scanner equals new scanner for line standard text fields. Okay. How do I print something, Ross? I mean, in Go. Print? Okay, print record. Oh, print line record. Oh, okay. This is work. Okay, cool, that does work. So, blend fields. Yeah, very.
Record.
Is it giving me a squiggly because I'm not using it?
You'd have to.
no new variable on the left side.
Very good.
Okay, I'm gonna call it drop. Okay, not used.
I guess it cares. You just print it.
Okay, that made the compiler happy. Okay, how do I want to create a
Okay.
list of lists.
I don't use that. I think it probably call it like you store floating points and go.
Oh, float 64.
A little picky of it.
Well, understandable, I guess. This is whack. Learning new language is a lot of fun. Okay,
So
so
questions. You do like to drop.
that's an error quickly because something happened.
You haven't used it.
Yeah. Okay. So then
Just using an underscore.
Is this how you do an iterator?
Oh, they have a comment there.
Well, that's an enumeration. What is?
This is the value. I do think you have to do. I think it's an I and then the value of it.
Okay. Iterate over list. Range? Oh, okay. A range dropped. I was thinking Python range.
Yep,
Okay.
index and value.
That's interesting. Okay.
Oh, float list. Yeah. Okay.
Why 64?
Bit size.
Okay. I was wondering if that was coincidence.
It's weird that it's complaining about like using value.
Oh, now. Woo! That works. Okay, so now we get to get the y value float 64. So essentially, we have the data frame. This first data frame is all this stuff from here to here, and now we want to get data from here. So, but first, we're gonna get rid of the header. So I'm essentially this. I'm guessing this is like an iterator, and no new variables on both sides.
Can you just do reader dot read?
Oh yeah.
Maybe it'll accept that. Record.
Wait, it's just giving me the error.
Cannot. Oh, you need to give the type that you want.
Oh.
That's
Val. Oh yeah.
Also, you need to do what you need to do is you need to do yval is equal to like that, and then you need to make a float list for the yval, and then you also have to. You can just use the.
I'm not here.
So, wanting. So strange. Coding interviews. I had a coding interview where they had you use a meta what's one value? We shouldn't need.
Well,
Oh, I see.
yeah, we only need one. It's a data frame is a two-dimensional array. Data frame Y is a one-dimensional
Yeah.
array.
Not initialize one variable with price. Oh,
Nice.
with you underscore. And you have to append. You gotta do data frame. Y. I don't.
All right, cool. Now, next part. Let's just go straight to my KN and go.
Give it a shot. I wonder how ChatGPT made up language. Just ask it, hey, this is our made up language. I want you to write me a program.
Okay, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, X, Y, test, K. What is our test value?
The one D or
Well, this is a test value, but why is it?
oh yeah, that's weird.
Is it just
Scroll back up to
Oh.
how you asked.
Huh?
Scroll back up to how you asked. Oh, why? Maybe the Y data was also. It didn't think the Y data was it didn't think Y data was the test. Thought it was like a secondary, trying to do it with two.
Oh yeah, yeah, I see what you mean.
So you could ask it again. Understanding check. It could be a right solution.
All right, let's copy paste all this stuff.
And then just get rid of the Y.
Mm-hmm.
Failure would accept this assignment and go. Sure, I did it.
The auto grader would not.
I changed your auto grader so it can handle Go now. Welcome.
Okay, what are the things that we do? We need to math and sort.
It's weird that it uses a string to the important. When it uses. Does it compile? This is a big test. Yep.
Okay, I think how does how do we read it? Um, so x, y, this is our input data.
Mhm.
And then what is data, okay, so we pass in the same data as x.
The data frame.
But it's not the right type. We gotta do int.
And then you have to go set up the parts. Int. Why? I give it
It
an
is an int.
No, it wants two ints.
String.
Yep.
Number. What is the one?
It wants int.
Well, what's the second int part? Int base.
Weird. And then that's for the can. So you have to. Oh, we have to remove. You have to remove the y.
What?
We have to. This y we have to remove.
Oh,
These two. That needs to be that. So that needs to be a list of ints, and that y needs to be removed.
No.
Either that, or you need to just change that to an int.
No. So data frame x. Data frame is a two-dimensional array of floats.
Mhm.
Data frame y is a one-dimensional array.
Yeah.
Data frame, but okay, so okay, hang on. The what is it? What is this function returning? It counts.
It's saying if it's cancer or not.
Yes, this is what we want.
So it would be it's
84.
$64. Yeah. Oh, data frame Y is 60 out of 64. And 60 and 60. I don't understand why it's not.
Well,
You can go to it was complaining about K neighbors. Not use Rails. That's line 42. Oh, yeah. Why is it complaining? You have to make that a 64 as well, I guess. Well, this is why
where
the jobs are secure. This is the current job security.
No, the job security comes from us figuring this out.
Index out of range.
Go routine 1. Where?
83.
Wait, it doesn't give it the 9-line number. Oh, it does. 83.
Oh, because the for loop keeps on going, I think. It kept on reading it and then it failed. Didn't catch that.
All right.
Put the whole thing in a try catch. Or we could just we could find out when it's gonna get to the end.
But it didn't happen before. No,
No,
because
it did.
It was printing it out, so we never actually let it run to the end.
If we do I bar I 0
Oh, I see what you're trying to do.
plus plus. Here with my I, and then
We just
oh, and then we find out when it's gonna break.
okay.
Just so that we can. Oh, break. It's processing it.
Okay, let's not.
You don't want to go through all the predictions.
No, let's just print out the predictions.
Gotta get rid of the. Gotta use tests. That's one way of getting surprised it doesn't complain about that.
Oh, because well, this is well known to be this is it's supposed to be empty, so I guess the compiler recognizes it.
Yep.
Okay, so this is statistical cheating. Okay.
So if we give it like.
Okay, so now we need to download the other file. So this is the test file. We need the train file. Mm-hmm. This is a big file.
It's just the down. I just want the download button.
You have Git on your computer. You'll probably be faster just close.
You can get.
We don't have to. We can just wait. We can write the rest of the code for testing it. But let's go back to the Python one. Yeah.
There you go. Oh, we were using the test data, not the train. So. Time. Now we gotta go through it. Just copy the data frame, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the data will. It's just some.
Yeah, but I don't understand this. Okay, okay.
It's not on there.
I just want to look up. I want to put that in a function.
You don't want to just copy it.
Well, because we have to read another CSV file.
Yeah. I don't know.
We can copy and paste it, I guess.
Let me close that.
Okay.
Let's show that it can't totally replace people.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I
It's
literally
not like replacing all of the stuff.
This is gonna be a problem.
Oh, I can fix it. Just ask it how you try that.
Yeah.
Where they try to. Error equal to IO or end file. We don't need that.
Yeah, but I wanted to know what it was.
And then
Yeah, input.
okay, what? Don't need that anymore. Data.csv.
Oh, we're going to do training.csv. The data.csv is test. And then
Test.
test test.
Or data.csv.
Why is it? Why all the red squigglies?
Undeclared. Yes, we do.
Why do you sometimes put?
It's probably just because it's right. Okay, and then this one needs to be the test. That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
And then do we want to like do like an accuracy?
Yeah, so basically we count the total number. We count the number of
We could do like a variable j, right? 0. And
SYI, yeah. 51% have
Um,
percent use instrument.
oh, I think that you not do percent B for have to be.
Yeah, C, yes.
I don't know what it is. And then it's complaining about these undeclared names. See how. Oh, it's not giving it to. Oh.
Shouldn't print that anyway.
Oh, it had a bit of luck.
Index have a range.
Oh, because that for loop
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have a. No, not that one. Scroll down to the part. Prediction for, yeah. This doesn't have a thing for like picking it out of range.
But it's in.
Oh, data frame. So that should be predictions. It said it's a prediction. The data frame is a lot larger. Now it's. Now we know though. I'm move the. We should be expecting like an accuracy of K neighbors like in the
90, yeah.
99. Isn't that accurate? Well, it probably cast it. Okay, here's what we'll do. We'll just do it ourselves. We don't need to worry. What it's probably doing is because J is an integer and the length of prediction is also an integer. It's probably just casting it. So we'll just see what the value is and put the on the. How is this? Is this interesting? Watching us suffer. Pretty good accuracy.
98. All right, cool.
We got to 98 just using AI. Give us a K nearest neighbors function. I think we kind of won.
We did. How long did that take us? That literally took us, what, half an hour?
Yeah, to do this. So I've never used Go before.
Neither have I. The only time I saw Go was for like 10 minutes.
A lot like C, a little bit like.
I'm still annoyed by the
Casting
yeah.
stuff. Yeah, that's weird. I think we would go past that. Ah.
If it works like C.
Yeah, use that. Now we're just having fun with it. You got any other topics to talk about?
Well, I think we have explored pretty well how
Mhm.
useful, like ChatGPT can be.
This is like a learning tool.
Yeah.
Use it to learn any programming language you want, really, and it will give you some good access.
Oh, it's still 0.
You gotta cast these.
Oh, right.
You're-
Oh,
you're-
I forgot. Yeah.
The casting, yeah. You just cast the length of. You gotta cast the length.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, and see, you only need to cast one.
What I think it's doing is it's like sometimes it will like assume, oh, you wanted up note. Note is the best type because it's most memory. But that is a 0. That's the really weird thing. That's not. Should be. I guess it's rounding down. Better for it.
I'm gonna be mad if this doesn't give us 98.
We did it. Now we know. We can just use ChatGPT.
Imagine learning Perl.
Yeah. Well, anyways, that's all we had for this podcast. Thanks everyone that watched and future watchers. A lot of fun. Austin, this is Kevin.
Hello.
We will be. Let's talk about like future. So in the summer, we're planning on doing a React tutorial series. We're making an e-commerce website. I'm handling the React front end, and then Kevin, you're handling back end. We're hoping to have some Docker images set up for people to use so that we all are working on the same machine, basically. So that should be a lot of fun. And if you're interested in that, come check us out in the summer. Bye, everyone.
Ciao.